we put it on right here. Okay. Yeah, my hearing aids on. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't know how you guys chant this, but I'll chant this the way I'm used to chanting. Morgen yuhinu jamsam bemarge satam bola yangsen chuki nyuju ne bema junye shi sudra kodu kanjo ma pukor keki jesu daju jingi lapchi jesu so guru pema siri orgen yuhi nu jamsa marge sadang bola yang sen chuki nyu june bema junye shi sujwa kodu kanjo ma pukor keki jesu da gi jingi lapchi jesu so guru pema siri hung at the Oregon's northwestern frontier on a stem and corona of a lotus flower, wonder supreme accomplishment attained. As the lotus born renowned, encircled by a retinue of many dakinis, so that I may become like you, please come and grant your blessing. Guru Padma Siddhi Hum. So let's start out with the breath, deeply inhaling, then holding, and totally expelling, okay? Just let your mind be one with the breath, and breath will take you where your mind needs to go, okay? So take a deep breath. this is how we discontinue the chain of discursive thinking mind so we can start fresh. So if you can just rest in the natural state, or just simply be, of course that's the best, if you can do it. But if you can't, then we can simply watch or observe our mind. So if you can't do that, or if you don't know what that means, then you can simply observe something. But you just want to simply observe, okay? We don't want to observe as we normally observe things, half-heartedly, with partial awareness. You want to just be present and observe the object that you picked to simply observe or watch. So if you do that, your mind automatically doesn't get distracted to anything. First, we have to stop the distraction of the mind before you can see or experience the mind. Before you can really start to work with the mind. So there's many levels, just simply observing the mind. It can be very profound and be very advanced. It's just not for like beginners. It just simply depends where you're at. Just simply observing without focusing, observing in a very relaxed way. So this mind, which you're observing, yet it becomes unclear or murky, then just re-clarify the mind through your experience, which you experience the mind to be. So if you're not clear what the mind is, then the experiencer is actually the mind. Just observe the experiencer, okay? Then you're automatically observing the mind. So in the beginning, if you need to, you can focus on the mind, so it doesn't get scattered or goes away towards objects or thought, as it usually does. So you're allowed to focus in the beginning if you need to. So once the mind can simply be in its place, then you can start not to focus. Just observe without focusing. This is something you probably have to familiarize yourself, because most of us, when we observe something, we're automatically focusing. So just simply observe or watch without focusing, if you can. just observing, just watching the mind. Also, don't forget, it's the mind that is watching and observing. So this is a way for the mind to be the mind. So it can start to be, or it can stop being what it's not. It can stop being distracted. To what is not mine. And this happens automatically, without any intention or you knowing it. Mind just simply observing mind. Mind becomes mind. This is one of the ways how you can purify the mind. Just simply watching and observing. In a very relaxed way. So take a break. Refresh yourselves. So is this too easy or too hard or what? Too complicated? So most of you know, do you understand? Am I being clear enough or am I? No answer? Are you just still simply watching? So we need to interact. Otherwise, I'll just keep on going. Then if you're not clear, you won't clarify anything. So through your feedback, I can make adjustments accordingly. I know some of you are probably shy because this is the first time you're here, but what is there to be shy about? I'm not a monster. I mean, I can't punish you or reprimand you.
So, Brendan, for me, it's been really hard now to just let the mind be
Mm-hmm.
because of my day. I mean, I just observed this very intense stream of thoughts
Mm-hmm.
about my day.
Yeah.
And especially because I have been doing some very exciting things
Mm-hmm.
work-wise. So my mind just goes there and just wants to be entertained
Right.
by all these thoughts. So I see the distraction occurring. That's very clear for me.
Good.
And I see the effort of trying to let it go. But at the same time, I feel and I'm taken by the pull of just going back to observing or being entertained
Yeah.
of the stream of thoughts.
Right. So you have to do something to prevent the mind from going out. That's what it does naturally. See, this is what's natural for us is really unnatural because we're so deluded, we're so used to misperceiving what is unnatural has become natural, and what is natural has totally been obscured by what is unnatural. This is what we got to do first. Stop the mind from being distracted. This is how we can start the mind. We can prevent the mind from being what it's not, what it is really not. So you have the instruction, but you yourself you have to do it, of course. Through doing it, we'll find your own way to practice, to do it.
So when you talked about the experiencer being the mind,
Yes.
observing the mind, What I found myself doing is it felt like I was looking into
Looking for what?
it when I, what I felt. Okay, what I saw myself doing is it felt like it was like a reflection of mirrors, you know, where there's one reflection after another reflection after another reflection, and I kind of started getting caught up in that rather than just being able
Right.
to be quiet.
Just simply watching.
Mhm.
We don't want to try to, see, that's the thing. Mind wants to define, process, and make comments about what it's seeing. So what we got to do here is just simply observe without trying to find out what it is. You don't need to know what it is. You don't have to define it. Just simply watch. That's all. Just simply watch. See, that automatically puts the damper on the mind from going up.
Thank you.
So this is like the very preliminary practice that we have to do so we can work with the mind. Begin to see what the mind is. Even though all of us experience the mind all the time, it's a thing that probably in a way half consciously, unconsciously, the thing that we're most familiar with. But really, in terms of what really the mind is, knowing the mind, most of us, this is what we're least familiar with. We experience the mind, we are the mind, there's no doubt. But we really don't know what it is, how it functions, how it affects us. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Brendan?
Yes.
The mind watching the mind or the mind observing the mind, how is that different than the mind resting in a state of unfocused clarity?
The only difference is there's less effort.
I'm sorry, what?
Only difference is there's less effort. When the mind is just simply resting in its clarity, mind is obviously seeing mind. But there's no extra effort. Everything is seen. Mind is seeing mind. But there's no effort. Less effort. Mind is being mind. So there's many levels of mind being mind. When the mind is absolutely the mind, that's when the mind is being itself. There's absolutely nothing else other than the mind. That's the pure mind. Okay?
Thank you.
And if you, into the state of just being, as how I started out, if you can just simply be, mind is automatically being mind, without any idea or perception of mind. Because there's nothing else other than mind. When you really work through all the arisings and manifestations of mind, there's nothing other than mind. When everything is absent, when you go into totally solid, totally dark room, everything that you were seeing is absent. What is left? Right? Same with when all the thoughts stop, when you no longer have thoughts. What is still left? Yeah, the mind that you're familiar with when you're thinking, of course, that becomes absent. But the mind that is the source or base of all of that is ever present. That's the goal, if there is a goal. We want to access that. So the new people, if you don't tell me anything, I'm just assuming that you're getting everything perfectly. Okay?
Brendan, do you have any suggestions or thoughts about what can be done to when the mind just goes off completely? And then you come back to realizing that your mind has been gone off.
Yeah, you've been distracted.
Yeah. Are there things that I don't know, breathing or a special focusing or something to help
Well,
with that?
breathing can be a support, and there is a meditation on the breath where you're just simply present with the breath. That prevents the mind from being distracted to other things. So beginning, we have to rein in the mind. You know? So you can use whatever. You can use an object. You can use the breath. Whatever works for you. This is how we can stop the mind from being distracted. So we have no control when the mind is distracted. We're just slaves, you know. We're led here, there, by the habits of the mind. We're just led from one thing to another. From one thing you're attached to, another thing that you're attached to. So if that makes you happy, then that's fine. But I don't think that'll make you happy all the time. Only sometimes. Sometimes you're totally overwhelmed. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, you can use any object. But we can't be going from this object to that object. Find one object and stay with that object. When you stay with that one object, the mind automatically begins to be that object itself. Can can stay. Mind can just stay there. It can just be that object which prevents the mind from going out or being distracted to other things.
Brendan, I'm a little bit confused by what you mean by the mind being the mind. Maybe there's not
Confused by what?
the mind being the mind. What do you mean by that?
Oh, mind is. It's like me being me. Do you understand what that said? Okay. Because of confusion, you're not familiar what is meant by mind. It's probably something new to you, even though you've used the word mind in the past. So are you really clear when I say mine, or when you say mine, when you talk about mine?
I think so. I think you mean like my brain in my head, but
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah. You think so means that means you're not really clear. Because when it's certain, you don't have to think. But in the relative world, where we deal, where we function, we do think. We think to clarify things. We think to be certain about things. That's fine, that's normal. But to really try to find out what the mind is, thinking will not do the job. Maybe in the beginning it may help. See how thinking is erroneous or false?
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more confusing it gets.
Right. We have all these thoughts which we perceive to be real, and we don't even know it. We're not even conscious of it. We think we have thoughts, but we automatically act, unconsciously act and perceive them, the thoughts as being real, right?
Yeah.
That's how we interact. That's how we respond. And we think it's permanent, and we think it's separate. It's none other than the activities of the mind. It's not separate. You see that? Or begin to see that? How that can be?
Yeah.
So this is why the questions are so good. It unravels, clarifies a lot of things that you would not be exposed to. You would not find out otherwise.
Brendan, if you've never experienced the mind just being the mind, how would you describe that feeling?
Repeat that again slowly.
So I've never or I don't think I've ever experienced my mind just being my mind.
Yeah.
So how would you describe that feeling if you have experienced it? I'm just assuming that you have.
I told her, me being me.
like, is there any thought that comes to your head, or is it just what?
You don't need to have thoughts. In the beginning, you may have thoughts, but you don't need to have thoughts. You don't need to think for the mind to just simply be mind. Mind, just being. This experience, mind we can experience, just being, is automatically being the mind without us having to know it, without us having to make any extra effort. Because you're not used to seeing things this way. But when you're just simply, when the mind is just simply being, not being anything, mind is automatically being mind. You don't need to tell yourself, oh, the mind is being mind. If you can just simply rest in the mind, just being, it is mind is automatically being mind. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say thank you.
So you have to remember, you're not used to thinking or looking at things this way, right? Are you?
No.
Okay, that's why. It takes time. We have to become familiar through our practice. So when the mind is just mind, it's automatically not distracted to anything. That's how you start to become your own master, not a slave to everything. How wonderful that would be, right? Or maybe not, you like being a slave. What'd you say?
I don't like being a slave.
That's what I thought. Most people don't. I know I certainly don't. That's why I started this path 40 years ago. I was tired of being a slave and being unfree. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. All right, let's, why don't we sit some more? Just simply sit and do the practice again. Mind just simply observing mind. That's all you have to do. Don't think about mind being mind. Just have the mind just simply observe the mind in a calm, relaxed way without focusing. You can observe the mind, or you can just simply be the mind. No different. not only is the experiencer the mind, but the experiencing, just experiencing, is also mind. So you can just simply observe the experiencer or the experiencing. Or the mind which you're experiencing. No different. So you have to maintain some clarity of the mind for you to be able to just simply observe or watch, okay? Because if you don't have that clarity, then definitely the mind will have more of a tendency to go out or be distracted. So periodically, you have to clarify the mind through your own experience. What you experience to be the mind, just simply watch and observe that. practice is just a matter of becoming familiar and getting used to it. And the practice has a tendency to automatically reveal the experiences that you need to experience as you do the practice. Getting used to, becoming familiar. Just simply through the practice. So the practice reveals itself through practice. Experientially. So the practice is your own teacher. Don't undervalue or undercut that. So let's take a break for a moment. So any other questions?
Start out with a question. A clarification from that previous question-answer period. There was
Previous questioning where? When?
earlier when people were
Yeah.
asking questions, in several cases where you were talking about the mind, you touched your head or indicated kind of that the mind was here in the head, like it was a cerebral function.
But
Could you
mind
comment
is
on that?
everywhere. Mind is everywhere. Mind is everywhere. For new people, I want you to know this with certainty. You can never be separate from the mind. Doesn't mean you have to be the prisoner of the mind, okay? Mind can free you because the mind itself before it's diluted, becomes anything, is totally free, totally complete, totally blissful, and totally happy. That's why we spend so much time trying to realize the nature of mind, what mind really is. We want to be that. In a way, we are that already. But of course, we don't see it and we don't experience it. Because it's totally obscured and obstructed by our habits, ideas. What you think is real is probably one of the greatest obstacles to what is real. So your question was,
Yeah, I wasn't sure that it was misunderstood, or because you kept indicating that it could be construed that it was like a mental function, the mind.
yeah, mind is mental, but it's more than mental. It's beyond mental. The mind that most of us are familiar and know about is mental. But the mind goes way beyond, okay? Just look at it this way. Jesus or Buddha, they were never, if what I said is true, they were never separate from their mind. And the way they were way beyond all the ordinary beings. I don't know if that answers your question.
And so it's a component, but it's not the whole.
It's what?
It's a component, but it's not the whole.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, most of us think the mind is here, But mind is way beyond.
Hello. I have a question about sleepiness. How do you re-clarify the mind when the distraction is a growing sleepiness?
State the question again.
Could you just address sleepiness? A kind of the mind just, I had a long day, and instead of staying awake and wanting and being clear,
Yeah.
a sleepiness starts to
Breathing
set.
it?
Sleepy.
Freeing
tired.
the mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the best and easiest way is just fall asleep. You don't have to do all this, make effort and meditate, try to meditate. That would be the best way. Don't laugh. The most relaxed state is the deep sleep. In fact, that's actually the natural state. But we can't make use of it because we're totally unconscious. We're in deep sleep. But that would be the best way to just free yourself and relax. Let everything go. All right? You can do that, or you could slowly do it through your meditation. How to just simply not get caught up. How to simply let go of things. There's different practice that helps you to do that. maybe tomorrow, if you're interested, we can go more into. The things that can help you just let go or be more free. Okay? Are you done?
So sometimes I just end up just watching the sleepiness.
Sometimes what?
I just watch the sleepiness because that's where I'm at, and I don't feel like there's much else I can do with it. Just-
Well, don't try to stay awake. Just fall asleep.
But I often feel sleepy. That's the problem.
You know, there's a thing about practice I have to share with you from my own experience. If you're trying to practice and you're falling asleep and you're really tired, you know, you can spend an hour trying to stay awake and you're doing the practice so half-heartedly and not even doing it right. Whereas if you allow yourself to fall asleep 5, 10, 15 minutes, wake up with a fresh, then you're not wasting any more time. It's okay to sleep, you know.
Yeah, thank you. It actually
Yeah.
makes sense.
Because in the beginning, I had this unconscious idea. Oh no, you gotta stay awake. You gotta try to do the practice. You know, I mean, that was so waste of time. It took me a long time to figure it out because I'm so stupid, you know.
Okay, so if the mind isn't anything,
Yes,
if it's empty,
yes.
where I get confused is how can it be anything or not be anything unless it...
Were you here last year?
Mhm.
Huh?
Yes.
Were you here at the session when I talked about, spent the whole session talking about emptiness?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think you were here either.
So that should answer that then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Brendan.
Yeah. Another person, you know, emailed and said the same thing. He said, because you didn't watch that session where I went, really tried to explain very clearly how the mind can be empty and it can be anything. Empty doesn't mean non-existence. But it'll be coming up over and over. But I just spent, you know, that special session because a lot of Westerns have the problem or clear about what it means to be empty. You know, the empty is not synonymous with nothing or nihilism or total blank.
So we're not concerned with defining it. We don't need a definition.
You don't need what?
A definition.
Well, we do when we're trying to work through things. But we don't need to get stuck in the definition. Okay? Definition helps us to define how we can work through things. But it becomes a problem when it's done its job and we hold on to the definition and we think, you know, that's it. It's just passing. Definition is just a tool. You don't want to get stuck in. Just as you don't want to get stuck in any religion. It's just a means. make sense?
Perfect sense, thank you.
Yes, if you can get them to give you that, or I don't know how you can access that. You know, the teaching that I gave last year, one whole session. It's all about how things can be empty and it can be everything. How if things weren't empty, they wouldn't be able to change. So anyway.
So, Brandon, I'll use a metaphor to explain my experience, right? So, my experience is that, like, I'm on a river shore. Is that right?
Gray,
River shore.
reverse,
I'm on the banks of a river, and it's really warm, it's cozy, but it's very entertaining. There are like everything there, but it's very warm.
that's
So
from rebirth?
no, river,
River.
water.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'm close to a river, right? And it's very warm,
Yeah.
very entertaining
Yeah.
to be there. So my experience is that when I relax, I almost get my feet on the fresh water. And I just relax and I stop feeling even my body. I start not feeling my arms, right? But my feeling is that when I get to that point, I just say, oh, I'm there, and that's done. And I try to go there again and feel that freshness and just relax. And
Yeah, just totally let go. Don't get worried when you start to not feel. You know, we have a tendency, that's the mind has a tendency to get nervous when it's not definite, when it doesn't feel. So just totally let go. Just relax, see what that's like.
my problem is when I do that, I realize that I'm on that stage and I go back. So using the metaphors, like I relax, my feet get in this fresh water, and I say, oh, I'm in the water, and I come back, you
Yeah.
know? And
Forget about the water. Don't remind yourself of the water. Okay? Just let go. Don't think about the water.
I try to, I try to.
Well, that comes with the practice. Okay? The more you use the practice of non-focusing, it'll become easier. This will become easier. Okay? Okay. We'll stop here. So since we don't have the dedication prayer, we can, each of us can make their own dedication. No, it's okay. We don't need it. Forget it. Okay? Each of us. The merit that we have gained or accumulated from doing this practice. Instead of just hoarding it to yourself, we're going to share it with everybody. Not only the people here, but everybody, totally. For the benefit of all. And may what we did here offer to all beings, to benefit all beings. just helping yourself this way will automatically for you to be helpful to others. By you becoming enlightened, awakened, you automatically help others to awaken. Just really share this. Offered, totally offered for the benefit of all beings. Totally let go. Go in peace.
Thank you, Brandon. So a couple quick announcements. So Brendan's going to be here all weekend, as well as next Thursday and next weekend as well. So he'll be teaching tomorrow night, Friday night at 7 o'clock. And that's the first part of his, so basically he's giving 2 weekends on the nature of the mind teaching. So this was a little teaser tonight. And he'll be going through, the next 2 weeks, he'll be going through a text, a teaching that His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche gave in 1979. And he'll be walking us through that teaching, and then we'll be meditating together. So it's going to be a great 2 weekends. If you happen to not be able to make a session, it's okay because we are recording it. So if you don't not come to one session because you're going to miss all of them. Although I will say with Brendan's style, it's really beneficial to be there for the whole thing. So first session is tomorrow night, Friday at 7 p.m., and then on Saturday from 10 until noon, and then from 2 until 4, and then Sunday, same timing, 10 until noon and 2 until 4. And then he'll be here next Thursday, and then next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I hope you can all join us. And then we've had a couple other additions. So I wanted to introduce everybody to Lama Tashi. So Lama Tashi is Choje Rinpoche's main attendant. So Choje Rinpoche has done over 4 years of solitary retreat, and Lama Tashi was his attendant for all that entire time. Cooked for Rinpoche, cleaned, made tormas for Rinpoche. So he's a ritual master. Lama Tashi spent most of his childhood in Chumor Monastery. So Chumor Monastery it's in Ladakh, which is far northwest India. So the main town is called Leh, and Leh is at 15,000 feet. And then you go to the monastery and it's even higher. They go over a 16,000-foot pass just to get to the monastery. And so there's only 8 monks that live in Chumor, and Lama Tashi was one of them. And so Lama Tashi was, I don't know, I shouldn't say best, but Rinpoche found a really close connection with Lama Tashi and then really nurtured him. And so Lama Tashi is actually applying for his green card, and so he'll be able to spend more time with us here. His English is getting better. It's getting pretty good, but he's not that confident yet, so please be patient with him. And so anyway, so Lama Tashi has offered, like I said, he's a ritual master, and so in Vajrayana practice, there's these things called tormas that we use during soak practice, as well as once you're beyond the Nundro, then you get into some higher practices, and tormas are really useful. And so they're just made with barley flour, water, and butter. But it's amazing how complicated they can be with just those ingredients. So Lama Tashi, tomorrow at 4:30, he's going to be doing an introductory torma making class. And even if you have Saturday. So on Saturday at 4:30, so after Brendan finishes. So even if you have no intention of making tormas right now, I really encourage you to take the opportunity to be with Lama Tashi while he's here. And then, again, hopefully we can get him his green card and he can be here for a lot longer. So yeah. And one of the things that we would like help is if maybe 6 or 8 people can stay and we can take some pictures with people and Lamatashi, then we can include that in his application to show his activity here at the center. So if you can do that, that would be great. And then, are we doing Riwa Sangchud, Julie? Or is that undecided? Okay, what time? Okay. So another practice we do is a healing smoke offering practice, and Brendan does it I think every day, and so he offered to do it with us here at the center. And so what Julie's saying is Monday at 6 p.m. gather, and then we'll start the practice at 6:30. And if you haven't been here before, it's okay. We'll walk you through it, but that's a really amazing practice. So I think that's it. Any other announcements? Okay, so one other thing is that we are finalizing the dates right now, but keep June 4th is a Sunday, and it's also Guru Rinpoche Day, and Lama John is going to be coming. He's going to be in Boulder for a translation conference anyway, and so he's going to stay, and then Sunday he's going to be giving a meditation teaching and then doing soak with us on Sunday afternoon, and then he's going to stay that whole next week and teach on Thursday and then teach that next weekend. So I'm just finalizing. Today we were bouncing times back and forth, and as soon as I have those, we'll send an email out. But I like to tell people as soon as possible so you can plan your schedule. So that'll be June 4th, and then June 10th and 11th will be those weekends. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan.